Hi everybody, it's Andy and welcome again to my office in Modesto, California. I'm an attorney licensed to practice law in California as well as New York. In this video, I'm going to go over California child support and specifically what has to occur in order for child support to end in a particular case. Now, as you can probably imagine, this is a question that comes up a lot both from parents who are paying child support as well as from parents who are receiving child support. Given that it is rather unfortunate that there is no one kind of single answer that applies, like there is no simple answer to, oh, when does child support end? Oh, it ends when this occurs. So that's the bad news. There are unfortunately multiple scenarios under which child support in California can end, and it all really depends upon the situation that is in your particular case. So that's the bad news. The good news, however, is that there are kind of solutions, or I guess there are answers to the question of when does child support end. There are answers that are more common than others, so I'm going to go over those with you now. I'm also going to go over kind of the more uncommon, or I guess rarer, ways in which child support can end. So, given that there are quite a few kind of scenarios, the easiest way actually is for me to roll in a PowerPoint slide and kind of narrate you through it, rather than just kind of sit here, or stand here rather, and kind of talk you through the whole situation. So, why don't you guys sit back and relax, and I will roll in the PowerPoint slide right now.
Okay, everybody. So as I described in the intro, there are several methods by which California will determine when child support should end in a particular case. I'm going to go over the two most common methods first, and between the two of them, for whatever reason, I see one of them much more frequently than the other. I'm going to go over them both, however, just in case what is less frequent for me is the reality that you are dealing with. So the less frequent method for me is actually this first one. So the first method basically is that child support will end when the child turns age 19 or finishes the 12th grade of high school. So method one versus method two, the reason why you kind of use one versus the other, I think, is it depends on when your child's birthday is in relation to a kind of typical September to June kind of school year. So if your child was kind of born earlier on in the school year and they turn 18, right before they start their senior year of high school or right when their senior year, just begins, that one I think means that you're more likely to use method number one versus method number two. So anyway, but for method number one, if this is your situation, the applicable law here basically is going to be California Family Code Section 3901A. 3901A, the A is actually quite important. We're going to go over B as well in a moment, and B actually goes over other things. Still child support related, but not exactly about termination. So if 3901A is your kind of situation, you have to meet these three criteria. The child has to be age 18 and still unmarried. Number two, the child is still in high school full-time. And number three, the child is not yet self-supporting financially. So that means, if mom and dad still provide room and board, or maybe mom still provides room and board, mom still provides an allowance, pays for food, pays for gasoline, etc., then 3108 more likely than not will be satisfied. And if that's the case, then hopefully you can delay receiving or terminating child support until age 19 or finishing the 12th grade. So, like I said, method one, this one is actually less common for me. I'm not quite sure why. Just method two is I see it much more often. Method two, basically is that child support terminates when the child in question turns age 18. This one I think probably makes intuitive sense to most people. When someone turns 18, that sort of is treated as the cusp between childhood and adulthood. So if a child is no longer, a quote child because they've turned 18, it sort of would make sense that child support would logically end. So if this is your situation, the two family code sections you want to take a look at for background basically are section 58 as well as section 6500. So California Family Code Section 58, if you read it, it's not bad. I mean, there are other family code sections that are written more kind of in a confusing way, but it's also not an easy read. The basic idea, though, of 58 is that child support is generally for minor children only, unless there's an exception of some kind that applies. I'm going to go over the exception, the most common one that I see, in just a second. But 58, Section 58 goes over the rule, I guess, that support is generally for minor children, California Family Code Section 6500 defines who is a minor child. So I would be very surprised if anyone watching this video has a child support case going back to 1972. However, if you do, keep in mind that the word minor back then may have a different meaning. So back then, minor referred to somebody who was age 21 or less. After March 4, well, actually, on or after March 4, 1972, minor refers to somebody who is age 18 or less. So keep that in mind if you have a case that goes back to 1972. So a second ago, I mentioned the exception kind of up here. The most common exception that I see is for incapacitated adult children, and that's under Family Code Section 3910 in California. Incapacitated, basically, the most common situation that I encounter basically is a child, for whatever reason, is physically disabled, emotionally disabled, mentally disabled, and they're disabled to such a degree that they realistically cannot support themselves. They're just physically not able to do it. And or they are not able to earn a living to support themselves, so financially as well as practically, I guess, unable to support themselves. So that should hopefully be a rare case, but if it is your case, you do have an obligation to continue supporting your child, even though they have turned 18, even though they finished high school, even though they've turned 19, etc. So that said, that sort of leads into the next slide that I want to go over, and it's basically about frequently asked questions that I get in relation to, or in regards to child support, how long it goes for, when it ends, etc. So all of the stuff that I have described so far, the family law, the family code sections that I've cited to, etc., all of those apply, they're the law in California. However, there is a possibility that they may not be applied literally or strictly or something in your case. I mean, maybe the facts of your case are very unusual, they're very extreme, something like that. And perhaps they're so extreme, so unusual that if you just apply the law mechanically, the result that you get is unfair or unjust or something like that. That is the reason why judges and courts have discretion. So if that is your situation for whatever reason, and you are in doubt as to what child support you have to pay, what child support you're entitled to receive, etc., consult your court order. Or orders if you have multiple orders. The rule of thumb in general when you go to court is that if you are in doubt about what you have to do and you don't want to get into trouble, read your court order. If you do what the court order says, you will almost always be okay. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that regardless of all the stuff that I have described, if you're a parent and you want to agree with the other parent, or you can agree with the other parent, you can always continue to support your child beyond age 18, beyond age 19, and beyond high school. If that's your situation, California Family Code Section 3901B. Earlier we talked about 3901A. Now we're talking about B. But 3901B as well as Family Code Section 3587, both of those allow parents to come to an agreement to continue supporting their child even though they've reached, the age, I guess, that California says beyond which you are not required to support your child. Parents a lot of times will reach an agreement like this because of because of the child's college or graduate school expenses. Education almost always is, I guess, the one thing that parents can agree on. They may disagree about everything else, but their child's well-being, their child's education, their future and stuff, that's almost something that parents will actually agree on. So an agreement under 3901B as well as 3587 actually is very, very common. I see it all the time. So that said, number 3, termination of child support because the child has reached age 18 or reached age 19 or finished high school, etc. That termination is only prospective, it only goes forward. If, for example, you're the dad, I'll just pick on dads for a second. If you're the dad and you are supposed to pay child support, but let's say your child is 20 now, is 20 years old now, and back when they were, say, 14, you were supposed to pay child support, but there was a year in which you didn't, you still owe that year, even though going forward you actually don't owe any new support. That's a distinction that not a lot of parents who pay support realize. Termination is only prospective. It does not wipe out any debt that you owe from before. And lastly, it's Family Code Section 4326A. This one's a little bit complicated, but it is something that occurs quite frequently. The situation basically is this. When you are the parent who pays child support, you pay it to the other parent when child support ends because, the child has turned age 18, age 19, whatever. A lot of times the parent who the child lived with will use that kind of, termination of child support to get an increase in spousal support. By law in California, that is permitted, and the law in question is 4326A, so go ahead and take a look at that if that's the situation you're dealing with. But hopefully all of that made sense. Child support there's a lot of rules, but fundamentally it is not real complicated. I think most parents get overwhelmed unnecessarily. So hopefully this video will helped you regardless of whether or not you receive support, child support, or if you are the one paying support. So hopefully all of that helped, like I said. And go ahead and leave me a comment if you have any questions or if you want a video on 4326, for example. And until then, I will talk to you guys next time. Thanks.